This is Dorohoi. It's a town of roughly 40,000 and has an unemployment figure of about 80,000. There are new properties, but there's also many things which are exactly the same as they were 20 some odd years ago when we first came, and certainly around about 12 years ago when we first opened the centre. The main street looks pretty smart these days, and if you only drove through the main street, you'd wonder whether there were any problems in Dorohoi. There's a new supermarket which has brought with it problems because it imports food from Europe and charges European prices. It's also displaced many corner shops, and many of our families can't afford to shop in Lidl's. When you get off behind the main street, the old part is still there. This is a derelict factory which used to employ 3,000 to 6,000 people in its heyday. There's also a huge glass factory, glass and porcelain factory, that used to employ up to 15,000. Both ran into disrepair at the revolution. The apartment blocks. They were thrown up very quickly during communist times, and with them have come problems themselves. When we first went 20 years ago, every apartment block, every apartment had running water. Maybe not good water, but it was running water. When the water system was replaced, the apartment blocks were cut off from the water, and the only way you could get water was by paying to be reconnected, and many families couldn't be reconnected, couldn't afford to be reconnected, and so there are fewer people now with running water in the apartments than there were 20 years ago. If you live on a top floor apartment, you get wet from the top down. If you live on the bottom floor apartment, you get wet from the bottom up through broken drains and sewage. But every apartment seems to suffer with mould, lots of mould. Many of the houses that you will see now were here in this condition 20 years ago, and they're still just as bad, if not further deteriorated, and people are still living in them. This is the inside of that house, with a little stove to cook on, with a table that had obviously been donated to them, but very little else in the way of comfort. The room measures 3 metres by 3 metres. This place, note the cardboard covering windows and the plastic covering windows. Not very effective when you hit the winter and the average temperature is -25 and sometimes dropping to -40. This house has just been put together by gathering roof sheets and just sticking them on top. Most places in Dorohoi do not have water, as I've already mentioned, and so they have to draw waters from the well, in spite of the fact that under EU regulations most of the wells all carry notices saying that the water is undrinkable and no one should draw water from them. But most people can't afford to buy the bottled water, which is the alternative. This is the centre. The left-hand building is the original building, and we started to outgrow that, and in 2007 we've had a vision of building a newer, bigger building which would enable us to expand what we do. And in 2010 the building on the right was opened, and we immediately went from providing 40 meals a day to 70. When people have problems, they come to the office. This is the first point of contact that we have with the people, and they come with their problems, they sit and discuss them, and we try to determine how, if we're able to, we can help them. But for many, it's just the comfort of being able to come and to talk to someone, as Romanians don't have much patience talking and listening to one another. Our vision was to feed my sheep, both practically and spiritually. And in the practical level, we provide 70 meals a day, over 300 meals a week, 3-course meals. And for many of those that come to the meals, it's the only time in the week that they get meat. And every family that comes to the meal comes once a week. This is a typical meal. We also provide 270 food bags a month. Note the candles, because most people don't have electricity, the hand wash powder, the soap, tea bags, marge, basics, but something that helps to sustain them. We have now decided to up the number that will get food bags by 50. So 50 people will be getting, because of their situation, a food bag twice a month, which, yes, it increases our costs, but we feel sure that this is what God wants us to do, and we know that God is no man's debtor. This is our food store with food for about a couple of weeks. They also provide gas refills and gas stoves for people, so that they can cook the food we give them, but also so that they have a bit of warmth during the winter. Among the other things that we provide is a hair cutting service for those that wish, because our families just can't afford even to have a haircut. They can't afford to pay for that. We also help with toiletries, medication, hospital visits, and we provide 80 to 100 showers each week. We have other people that come and help, and one of the regulars is Laura, our dentist friend, who comes, and we joke with her that she takes away more than she brings. But that isn't true, because she brings a love and a care for the people and a concern for those in Dorohoi that need help. And she is nicknamed Dr. Golden Hands by the locals, who have been treated by her because of the way in which she is so careful and gentle with them, something which they don't experience with Romanian dentists. She also gives dental hygiene and care talks as well. We have old folks that come. This couple live in a lean-to behind somebody's house, and they pay rent for that. They have small pensions, and the lady of the house goes out and works. The man of the house is medically unfit. Their room where they live. This couple are in their 70s, and this gentleman looks after his wife, who has severe psychiatric problems, and he struggles with this. This girl is 16. Her mother has gone off to Italy and to look for work, and been unable to do so, so there's no money coming back, and she's living on her own. She can't afford to heat the room, and so we help with that, and we do with many other cases like this. Some people live outside of Dorohoi, just outside, and this is typical of one of the residents, and as you can see, the roof is not in good shape, and when you look up from inside you see daylight through the reeds, so consequently when it rains you get soaked from inside. We felt that we needed to help. A temporary cover which will last for 2 or 3 years on the house. Unfortunately the house is getting smaller, but she doesn't have to pay rent for it. The owner doesn't need the house, and so he lets her live there rent free. And this is the young lady in question. She lives on her own, and as I say, and this is her home. This was taken with a flash. It was actually very dark inside, and she grows some items for herself, but she goes off cleaning houses, doing a bit of gardening here and there, sometimes for money, but mainly she gets food in return. She also cleans some apartment blocks each week, for which she gets a princely sum of about £5 a month. This young couple can't afford to rent anywhere, so they've had to clean out a cowshed and to make furniture, and that's where they live. When we first came to Dorohoi, we felt that there were so many organisations going into the orphanages, and that God was calling us to actually work with families living outside of the orphanages. But over the recent years we've been having more and more people that were brought up in the orphanages coming to us, young married mums. And this couple, they were both brought up in the orphanage. They've got two lovely children. They are really such a lovely little family. The two children sadly have heart problems, but because of their upbringing, mum and dad often come in tears to the centre asking for advice and help because they've had no experience on parental care for children and so on. And we are able to counsel them and help them, but also to encourage them in the way they're bringing up their children. These are just few of the others that come to the centre, and they are all brought up in the orphanage. They all have some sort of learning difficulty or mental problem, and they come for showers. We help them with providing showers, with meal, with drink, coffee that is. They also just sit around, lounge around for a bit, and when they need new clothes, we give them new clothes. But these are some of the ones that are coming to the centre. We have somewhere around about 20 to 25 of these young people, and they all live rough. The playground has been a huge success for us and brings many children. It's still the only other playground in Dorohoi other than one that's very broken down. We were concerned about losing children in the winter many years ago when the playground is shut, and so we started our club for the youngsters, and it's run on the ground on the a Sunday school basis, and so it's a wonderful opportunity to reach out to these children with the gospel. Most of these children, in fact nearly all of them, have no church background. Most of them come from an Orthodox background, though that won't mean an awful lot to them, except from perhaps genuflexing when they walk past a church. We split some of the older ones, up to about 16 years old, from 12 years off, so that they could have something that's a little bit more relevant to their age. And we did this just over a year ago, and we started with 8, and we now have over 20 coming along on a Friday evening. Our Wednesday night evening meeting continues and is a huge success, but it's also that opportunity to reach out to those that perhaps generally aren't accepted by the churches. Though having said that, we're finding that we're acting as a bridge between the church and these people. We're not setting up, we're not hoping to be a church ourselves, just to bring the gospel to those that perhaps otherwise would not hear it. This is just a little snapshot of the work of Centre of Hope and what is going on at the present. It can only be a snapshot in this short space of time, but our aim is to give dignity and respect to those that are poor, oppressed and looked on as social outcasts. But the most important thing is that we bring the love of God and the salvation of Jesus Christ to them. We couldn't do that without your help, and we thank you so much for all the help that you give. You, through the help that you give, are part of Centre of Hope GLIA. Thank you.